Una parte di voi si è accorto che il nostro ospite è arrivato e in orario. So please, Professor Kotler, give to him a warm welcome.
Nice to meet you. Very much.
Nice to see you again,
Thank
Professor.
you.
Welcome. Oh, here we are. Welcome, Professor. Before, I'd like to do an introduction to our interview. Okay. And I will start with a video. Welcome to our presentation, an introduction to our interview with Philip Kotler. In 1996, I received a certificate in lateral thinking and I met Edward de Bono for the first time. In 2003, Philip Kotler and Fernando Torres de Bes published their book Lateral Marketing, dedicated to Edward de Bono. In 2008, I became project leader in order to merge the lateral marketing of Kotler de Bes with the lateral thinking of Edward de Bono. I worked hard for 10 months building solutions for creative marketing, coaching, and training, and organizing 12 meetings all around Europe with Kotler, de Bono, and Torres de Bes. Thanks to HSM, now Vobi, who made these meetings possible. At the end of the project, the three gurus suggested that I continue by myself. In the second part of the project, I met the professor of Cattolica University, Walter Scott, who in fact knew my grandfather, Mario Bellavista, a pioneer in marketing during the 1960s in Italy. Professor Scott was very happy to help me in the second part of the project. At the same time, I had met Christelle Nussbaumer at Sole 24 Ore Business School. Christelle was supported by her father for this important project. We worked hard and laughed a lot.
Christelle Nussbaumer, one of the authors.
The day before the Philip Kotler Marketing Forum, we gave a copy of the book to Philip Kotler himself, and he surprised us.
And then yesterday, his partner, Massimo Bellavista, gave me a gift. This is not my book. I just happened to write a foreword to it. It's called Markethink. It just was published, and I'm very excited.
The project has been evolving, starting from the most known authors of marketing, Kotler and Torres de Bes, and for creativity and innovation, Edward de Bono, expanding and becoming a meta-model, a model of models. In the marketing field, you will find Seth Godin, Peter Drucker, Richard Branson, Walter Scott, and others. In the creativity fields, we have been inspired by Al Schuller, Ned Ehrman, Tony Buzan, Palo Alto School, to mention only a few. But why management is so important for innovation? Let's listen to Gary Hamel, one of the innovational market thinkers who inspires us for the answer.
Of the greatest inventions of the last century, the things that have changed our lives that we could hardly imagine living without, what would be the things you'd put on your list? I'm sure you'd have the combustion engine there, semiconductors, all the wonderful pharmaceuticals that we enjoy today, probably the internet, long list of things that have made our lives easier, have made them more fun, and I think, all of those things are important. Having said that, I would argue the single most important invention of the last 100 years was the invention of management.
Now, I want to give you a little insight into 4 of the 10 innovations we have been working on. The first one is a database of hundreds of market thinkers. The main goal of the market thinkers database is learning from the best directly from their voices.
Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal.
For example, in the database, you can find the great Richard Branson, who teaches us directly from his experience through the so-called University, a YouTube's freely available video content. Another innovation is related to the market thinking style. It consists of the creation of an analytical profile of every person which gives us information on style, creativity, communication, organization, etc. We need this in order to develop your thinking styles and also to form creative performative teams. The history of management and entrepreneurship is full of complementary teams such as Steve Jobs and Wozniak, Paul Allen and Bill Gates, etc. Another innovation is the evolution of brainstorming that we call MeThink, the turbo of brainstorming. Thanks to applied thinking styles, we can have more creative marketing meetings with double the ideas in half the time. And the last innovation we will talk about is the idea base, the database of global innovations. You will find more than 1,000 cases that allow us to learn from the best practices. You can search with more than 10 parameters, such as industry, creative concept, level of innovation. We have cracked the DNA of innovations of every case that you can extract and apply to your business. Let's have a look at one of the cases, Rice Code.
This is a story of a small village in northeast Japan, Inakadate. The village, famous for rice, was struggling with an aging and declining population along with drop in sales, since Japanese eating habits have shifted away from rice toward a more westernized food. Rice Code. We then developed a new technology called Rice Code. It reads the rice out like a QR code and drives traffic to EC sites. The rice harvested there would home delivered directly. The new project was mentioned and shared on many blogs and news sites. As a result, visitors increased 30 times the population of the village and sales jumped dramatically. This movement even moved the government to build a special train station for the visitors. Field, the oldest outdoor creative, is now the newest. Rice Code.
From my point of view, a good example of modern creativity is the DJ, who mixes the ideas of others in a new way to create something original. Without further ado, let's start our interview with Philip Kotler. Good afternoon, Professor. 8 years after our first meeting with you and Fernando, how do you assess the innovations we have developed with the Markethink project?
Let me say that I'm very impressed with this presentation and all the work. You have certainly tried to be the founder or former of a body of knowledge available in the form of innovations, cases, relationships, and we ought to maybe redo some of our college education and our MBA education. Is an MBA education really going to be good in marketing if it doesn't use Markethink? I mean, in a sense, maybe they may say that everything's here, why do I have to go to class? Well, there's reasons to go to class because we have debates about what a company should do. You're not having the answer here, but the knowledge base becomes critical to being a good debater and a decision maker.
Okay, thanks. Another question, how is it possible to implement innovations geared for the future while faced with the pressure for short-term results?
I don't think we should worry about that as a contradiction. For example, my experience in Japan with certain companies and in South Korea, particularly with Samsung, both of those companies and countries say to their people, we want you to embrace continuous improvement. It's called Kaizen. Every day I want to do something better than before and think freshly about what I'm doing. In Japan, it was often the case that a person would go to the CEO and say, I'm not needed for that work. Why? Because there's another way to do it. It's better. I'll tell you the better way, and you don't need me for that. But Japan had lifetime employment, so it meant that he was free to say, I'm really useless in this job, or this can be done better, because I know you're giving me another job, and so on. Most of us sit in our office and we do either work or make work. Do you know what make work is? Looking like you're working. And the question is, you don't want the boss to know you're just not really adding much value at that point, but it's very important that we develop an interest on the part of the people working for us to be innovators themselves, to be creative, and to reward. If we want them to be creative, we're going to have to award them for being creative. So I think companies haven't thought through how to celebrate one of the employees who have come through with a breakthrough, a new way of doing something.
How can we motivate marketing manager to innovate on a low budget?
First, I want to spell this out, that basically innovation and innovating is not a natural thing to most people. Most people will be more comfortable doing the same thing every day the same way. I mean, that's because it's their comfort zone. They've learned to do something well, and they do it. So we're asking, how do you create an incentive? How do you incentivize thinking freshly? And you know, maybe it's some of those group methods that are more important. We call them brainstorming, we call them synectics, whatever the method. Maybe we can't rely on every individual being innovative, but we can put them in groups and say, we got a problem, and let's all think about it. And by the way, if that's going to be the form, there are some very good ways to make groups more productive in coming to decisions.
Marketing departments are being downscaled in terms of staffing. How can outside organizations like advertising agency and marketing consultancies best be used in terms of innovations?
Well, what you're really asking, how does an advertising agency, realizing that they're tied to 30-second commercials in a world that is now going digital, and maybe the companies buying commercials now want to pay less. They think that they don't need such expensive commercials. How does that agency survive? Well, that agency should become a broader agency, still within communication, but become digital. So my advice to an advertising agency that's the old guard is that they have to take on these new things. And since none of the people running the agency know the new things about digital, they have to hire digital natives and give them some money to play with, to see what Facebook could do for you, Instagram can do for you, and YouTube and so on. And you said management consulting firms or marketing consultants. I just had an interesting experience in Montreal. There's a company there that's making the case that you don't need consultants. Every company can consult itself. It's called coaching ourselves. So when a problem comes up, they get a team of up to 6 people to work on it who are employees, but it's the right mix of the right people who should be looking at that problem. And then they give that if it's a problem in let's say, I'm trying to think of storytelling or something. They need a story for a brand. They also give a sheet about what storytelling really is, so it sort of gets the groups to start thinking about it. And if the group doesn't really get answers that they like, then they should hire a consultant.
Okay.
But
are a lot of
but
consultants
most
in
of us just say, hire a consultant. Hey, you got within your company, obviously you built a good company, you didn't want to build a bad one, and so there's talent in that company. Why don't you just solve your own problems first? That doesn't save the advertising agency,
Yes.
It doesn't save the consulting firm, but in a rapidly changing world, we are all going to be obsolete if we don't change and find. My formula is you have to be thinking CCDV, creating, communicating, delivering value to your target market at a profit. CCDV, create, communicate, deliver value to a target market at a profit. And some organizations are not going to last because they lost their principle of difference or the value that they used to have.
For marketing managers, what are the means to make the most innovative use of omnichannel?
Well, we're talking about really the CMO, which is the term we use for the Chief Marketing Officer, although, frankly, that there's variations in the title. Some people say Chief Revenue Officer, which is a good term, too, because it means it's not only marketing, it's being responsible for the revenue side of the business, not the cost side. Sometimes it's called the Chief Growth Officer, because the new concept we have for the marketing head is the CMO's job is not just to sell the products they make. It is to create growth, which really includes innovation. In other words, the CEOs, now when they hire a CMO, they're saying to the CMO, you're going to be our engine for growth, not just selling some products. So I got off of that, your question had to do with...
regarding omnichannel.
Yeah, omnichannels. That's a fancy word for just having marketing channels that are interrelated in some way. I would distinguish between physical channels, like a retail store is a channel, a wholesaler and all that, and online channels. So omnichannels means we cannot neglect all these new ways of reaching people through online channels. In fact, some companies have decided to only be online. And Amazon is the big giant, the big gorilla in our lives. You can buy everything from Amazon. Online. Now it's food, too. They bought this whole food company, Whole Foods. And they don't need to make a profit. Yes, they do, but not now, later. And all along, they have not been profitable, and they're worth billions. There's a couple of companies who are doing that. The other guy who does that is Elon Musk.
Yes.
There's no profit. And he keeps selling, and everyone wants to buy his car. Well, he has costs of all kinds, because he also wants to fly to space and start a colony on Mars. So we don't know what the money level is. But back to omnichannels, the idea is please blend your physical channels with your online channels, and you can do better that way. Just like I say, blend your traditional marketing tools of advertising. Don't give up traditional, broadcasts and TV and print. Blend it with the new digital, and they play with each other. I do a big 30-second commercial, and at the end it says, for more information, see this particular site. And back and forth, blending, intertwining these new things is the answer. We're not going to kill one for the sake of the other.
The starting point of any marketing strategies must be market research.
I always start that way, yeah.
Yes.
For a newcomer going into a market, it's crazy not to know something about it.
There are entrepreneurs who have revolutionized the market, people like Steve Jobs and Richard Branson, who have defined their business strategies purely on their intuition. From your point of view, how can intuition be combined with analysis to best exploit opportunities in the market?
First of all, remember that even though Steve Jobs may have made a statement that he never used marketing, had he used it, he wouldn't have had the 3 or 4 failures he had too. Remember, he had this project called Next or something, and another and another.
Also Newton.
It
yes.
was sort of stupid not to test it. And what we mean by good testing by an entrepreneur is called rapid prototyping. Make a little physical, use 3D printing, make a little object, show it to some people. They can tell you how it might be better. You make it again, go to another group. Iterative testing, the chance to fail fast. That's our mantra. We want to fail fast. I don't want to learn a year later that it's a failure. I want to learn tomorrow that that's the wrong way to go. So I think that Steve Jobs may claim what he wants. And by the way, Richard, I don't know if he said that he doesn't use marketing, but it is true some people are geniuses at new ideas. Look, Jeff Bezos is a genius. That guy with Amazon goes from selling some books online to selling everything in the world. And now being a television producer, it's endless. I don't care if they use our concepts or not. They're gifted. But we're mostly not gifted, right? Mm-hmm. So what's the advice? No marketing, and do it.
Okay. What strategies would you recommend to a marketing manager to train or develop opportunities taking skills?
I think the reason for not finding enough opportunities, by the way, there are companies that go crazy with too many opportunities, and there are companies that have none. So taking those that have none, I say you're crazy not to have some. First of all, have you looked at some of the new technologies? Can you do something with robotics, with nanotechnology, and so on? All right. How about going into an old market and finding something new to do with it? And they say, give me an example. And I say, well, coffee is 500 years old, and Starbucks came from nowhere, charging you more money for coffee than any other company ever was able to charge. Why? Because they thought of a different way to not only sell rich coffee, but in a rich surrounding, in a wonderful place to sit down with your computer. You can meet some other friends and do some sociability. So take Zara. Zara is the firm that if you don't buy what you see today as a woman in Zara, it's gone next week, because they change their inventory every few weeks. So old industries are full of opportunities for new thinking. Then I would say, do you want to help lower income people? Yes. Well, then invent a $100 computer instead of a $500 computer. Invent sneakers for $1. The poor people, they still need sneakers or something. Or go to the luxury market. Do what Italy is so famous for, making fashion and diamond and jewelry, which is known around the world. These firms, these Italian firms, are geniuses. I don't, if you say, did they know marketing? Well, the founder had an image and a genius of creating a look that people wanted to connect with. And I say that there's so many sectors ready for opportunities if you want to address them. Let's take industries. The health industry is full of opportunities. We have to cure cancer, we have to cure diabetes, There's no limit to what you can do. And what about education? Why is education so poor? Can't we innovate some new ways of teaching and really look, one innovation came along. It's called MOOC. MOOC is the fact that MIT has cases and can teach you anything free. This whole idea of taking, well, Google says we're going to put together all the knowledge of the world. These big thinkers are wonderful, and I think that there should be opportunities for everyone, because everyone knows of problems. I bet every one of us could list 5 or 10 problems that we would like to see solved. So if a company says we're without opportunities, they're very wrong.
In a previous interview with Seth Godin, he states that managers are able to identify new opportunities, but they are reluctant to pursue them out of fear, the fear of making mistakes. In your opinion, how should managers address this fear of getting things wrong?
Well, why not put it not on your own life? I mean, where you're the guru and you're going to be the one to make this new thing. Get some partners so they all share the responsibility. It wasn't, and then you can even blame a partner. You can say he was supposed to do this part of it and he didn't come through. But I mean, but if you're courageous enough and you are convinced enough, go ahead with that idea. However, an idea needs to be tested. There has to be a fast failure testing of the idea.
You yourself are a prime example of someone who has kept learning and innovating throughout their life. How do you think we can develop the desire in people to learn and innovate, even as adults?
You know, you'll meet a lot of people.
I'm laughing because
yeah.
The person that wrote this, she is 50.
Oh.
So,
well, then she's going to be the right one for the answer, too. She probably was conscious of that, but she's looking for a method that makes you always curious. Curiosity is the basis of that. I wish I could know everything that Google knows, but I can't do that. But I want to know everything about the art world. I collect art and so on. I want to know a lot about, look, I just finished changing my, I'm not leaving marketing. I never will leave marketing, but I ended up wanting to start something else. So in 2015, I wrote the book, Confronting Capitalism. I have been so upset with the growing concentration of wealth, leaving the average person without enough money to even live on, let alone to save. And do you know 40% of Americans have no savings when they retire?
Yes.
So I wrote the 14 faults of capitalism, not to replace it, but to fix it. And I showed the solutions for each fault, like poverty and this and that. Then I realized that the heavy wealth that is going on now is corrupting our democracy, because all the politicians need a lot of money to win. And so we have our democracy. I wrote the book, Democracy in Decline. Our democracy is turning into a plutocracy. And I want to apologize to all people here from Italy and elsewhere for that dumb person who's running our country. I don't know how, he is so stupid. He's ignorant. He's absolutely I mean, I wish he may start arresting people like me talking this way. But the good news is, he is so bad that we will never again vote for a man like that. We'll know enough never again to do that. Just like you had Berlusconi. Never again vote for such a person. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the U.S. used to be admired for a number of things, and he's destroying everything we were admired by and for.
I would like to hear your comments on Peter Drucker's assertion that there are just two important functions for a business: marketing and innovation. other are costs.
I knew Peter Drucker, and he was wise in so many ways. He is definitely the father of management, and that
The grandfather.
the grandfather of marketing, and the father
of management. Yes,
Yes,
it's true. Yes, sorry.
because he was also so sensitive to what should be said about marketing. That's only one of 12 remarks that I collected that show such insight into marketing. So the only two functions that count in business are being good in marketing and innovation. All the rest are costs. What he's really saying is if you're going to invest money and not just see it as a cost, marketing is an investment, and so is innovation.
In which way can lateral marketing contribute towards a business becoming more creative and more innovative?
Well, not only Fernando, but you mentioned Edward Bono. Edward Bono is he still working and so on? I haven't met him for a long time.
He retired right now.
He should never retire. One of the, he created so many ideas. What is it, the 6 hats?
Yes.
And this and that. Do you know Edward was sitting in a coffee shop in Paris, and he noticed that he was actually waiting to find a seat to sit down. And he noticed that people buy 1 cup of coffee and they sit all day. He said, "You're in the wrong business," he said to the restaurant. He said, "You should be just charging for the sitting at the table, whether or not they buy coffee." So he had a way to see new ways to look at things. So when he wrote The Lateral Thinking, I began to say, too many companies, let's say there's a company that makes a cereal, Kellogg's, they make a cereal. And they make it day after day. They can make a new brand of cereal, add some more raisins, put some nuts in it, and so on. Is that all you can do with cereal? That's a lateral question. In other words, I'm not making more cereals vertically. I'm asking, can I do something else with what I make? Yes, you could make a candy bar. And that's what they did. They call it a health bar, because instead of a lot of sugar and chocolate, it's a bar you eat, and it's cereal, which is healthier for you. Lateral Marketing was the book I wrote. That is not the one I wrote with him. Yeah, but that was my best illustration is Barbie doll. Why should all little dolls look like a baby? Why not make a doll that's a very pretty woman, and then the little girl can learn how she will be like that. She will try to be very pretty and all that. So that Barbie doll became the world's best-selling toy ever, because they didn't want to think of a doll being just a little baby. Guess who the world's largest clothing manufacturer is? And shoe manufacturer? Mattel. The makers of Barbie dolls. In volume, more clothes are made in their factories, little clothes, little shoes, but they are the world's big, and they design them. They have dolls from every country. And as a matter of fact, I'm waiting for the next one. It has to be from the Middle East, and I don't know if they're going to have that thing where you can only see the eyes of the doll. Why buy the doll if she is hidden? It's like, I saw a picture recently. It shows the husband with 3 wives in the Middle East, and he's taking a picture of his wives, and all of them are in, you can't see them. You see 3 eyes, 2 eyes, 2, and he's taking a picture. It was so absurd, and so on. But I think that lateral marketing is not about, it's about getting new ideas about opportunities. That's what the book is. The other book is called Winning at Innovation that I did. Winning at Innovation says the following for you if you're in a company. It's A, B, C, D, E, F. That will remind you. In your company, there's probably someone who you can describe as an activator. It's the term I will use for a person who's always coming into an office. He's one of your employees, and he says, I got an idea. I read the newspaper, we could do this. And he never does it. And maybe he's the person who doesn't have the courage to do it. He doesn't have the skill, but he's always full of ideas. So you want a person in your company who is thinking freshly about things. Take one of his ideas or her ideas that looks interesting and turn it over to another person in the firm who we call a browser. A person who can go on the internet and browse and see if that's an idea that already exists, patented, or something that looks good. If it looks good, you've gone from A to B, an activator to a browser. The next thing is find a creator. Take the idea to a creative person to actually turn into a concept and test the concept. And if that is still exciting, take that idea now to a developer, because you're convinced it's a good one, and the developer will make it into the real product and packaging, and you're not through. Now you need to launch it, which I call the E, execute. You're ready. You made the product. It sounds good. You execute it. And then the F is for finance. You need a financial backing for all of this work to begin with.
Yes.
So I call it the A to F method of product development, basically. Does your company have activators and browsers and creators and developers and executors and financial people? It should.
The average period of employment for a marketing manager in a multinational company is 2 years and 2 months. And this time is highly focused on achieving short-term results. How can manager balance short-term and long-term results for innovation?
You're right. If the new CFO is going to be judged for producing a substantial result quickly, he or she is forced to go short-term, get little things done, and otherwise he will lose out. But don't worry about this 2-year study that the average CFO or CMO is 2 years. Half of them are picked up by another company and hired away from the company, and so the statistics are misleading. They make it sound like you're going to only last 2 years and you'll never find a job like that again. No, half of them probably are so good, another company noticed that and needs it. But the real task is the CEO and I want the CMO to have an office right next to the CEO.
Yes, sure.
The reason is the CEO knows nothing about marketing. He's
Except
a lawyer.
one he came
He's a
from,
lawyer, an
Massimo.
investment guy, something else. He thinks he knows. That's worse. He thinks he knows marketing. So the main thing is, guess who poisons the mind of the CEO all the time? The CFO. The chief financial officer is always telling him, I don't know what that money is being wasted on marketing. He's your natural enemy in marketing, the CFO. First thing, you get the job, become a friend with the CFO so he stops talking against you, and actually say, let's agree on how to measure the marketing return on investment. Let's be friends and let's change the CEO to understand how marketing works. And so I would like to always be in the office next to the CEO.
In terms of future of innovation in marketing management, in which areas of research should research be directed?
Well, it depends on the kind of company. Are we talking about a pharmaceutical firm that knows pretty much what the diseases are that they would like to work on? Maybe the question really is, how do you put innovation officially into an organization? Do you do it with appointing an innovation manager? And if so, you better spell out what he's supposed to do with what. Or do you have a skunk works? We used to do innovation from the R&D department. If we had an R&D department, we would turn over the work to them. Companies have a real problem to decide. Do they want to be the maker of something new, or do they want to buy new ideas that are out there? Or do they want to buy a company that is innovative?
Caesar.
By the way, there are some companies that are winning because they have a DNA, an innovation DNA. Richard Branson's company, 3M, Samsung.
Yes. Yes.
They just don't have to hear us. They've got it. How do you implant that? And what is the formal group that will be collecting and the ideas? You need some head of innovation who looks at all the possible ideas and does a good job of dropping most of them and telling us what we really should focus on.
My daughter Matilde is 11, and she wanted to be here to listen to you, because she said you could help her grow her future businesses. A consultancy agency. But today she has school. What advice can you offer a youngster that today want to develop a business with creativity and innovation?
This came from someone in the group here? Or is that your daughter?
Is my daughter.
Wow. The idea is that she should start a lemonade stand. You know the image? You're in a home, and a lot of people pass by, and you make lemonade in your home, because you drink it, let's say. Lemonade is a drink of a good drink. And kids often go and set up a little box and a chair, and they sit there, and for 5 cents, you can buy lemonade for me, and you pour it. And they get a sense that they can make money from their house. They're 11 years old, and then they may say, some of them wanted cookies instead. So they get some cookies from the house. Those are the people who really start out with a real interesting life possibility. But what we have to do in our primary education, do you know that most kids don't know what their parents do? Yeah, they may say, yeah, my dad is a lawyer or a doctor, or maybe an engineer, but if it's a person working in a big company, they don't know. So the idea came to one of my students, Xavier Lopez from Mexico, 20 years ago. He got this idea. I'm going to start Disneyland, but without Disney. Disneyland is fun, but you don't learn anything. I want to have something where kids could learn an occupation, because they don't know anything about the world of work and occupations. So he started Kidzania. So now remember the word kid. He's a kid, K-I-D. Zania, like, hey, that's a Kidzania. So there are now 14 Kidzanias in the world. You got to go to Mexico. They're going to start one in Chicago, Japan, and so on. The kids line up in the morning, their parents bring them, and one kid wants to be a pilot. There's an airplane there, and he sits in the airplane, or she. Or another kid says, I want to be a policeman, and they explain the police work to the kids. Another one says, I want to be the criminal. So that they explain to them. I can run and be chased, you know. That one came up, it was funny. But I want to be an auto mechanic. So they have a little space there with some cars that they do work on. I like pets very much. I would like to open a pet store. I want to be a fashion model. Well, Kidzania has been such a great thing. Too bad it's in Asia, because we don't, in the West, we haven't done anything with it yet. But they're so crazy about, it takes a lot of real estate, and you actually build a little hospital for the one who says he wants to be, she or he, a doctor, and you build a Big Mac, McDonald's, immature, I mean a small version of it, and that person wants to run McDonald's. And it's equipped to make hamburgers. And another kid wants to run Walmart. He wants to manage a store with shelves where you have to decide what to put on. Kidzania shows a brilliant idea. And the only thing that's stopping it from being everywhere, every big city, here it should be, is real estate and setting up this whole park. It's really like a Disney park, but it's made of stores and so on. And so That's what Matilda should do.
Yeah, yes,
Go
sir.
to Disney.
I will test.
Yeah, go to Kidzania.
Now, if there is someone that want to ask something to Professor,
Yeah, thank you.
you need the microphone. Can you?
A microphone over
Yes.
here? Yeah.
Can you, thanks.
Thank you very much for all these explanations. It's very refreshing, and I've been observing.
Just a moment, Jacques. He's the father of my co-author, Christelle. He is the father of my co-author, Christelle.
And she's
Wonderful.
She's sitting next to me.
Oh my, and I saw the pictures of you down, wonderful.
You'll talk to her later on. It's really interesting because I think the period we are living is very complicated.
Yes.
But one of the very complicated things for young people who want to start a company is that they see the profit before even seeing the products. And everybody thinks they are right and they are brilliant. They cannot imagine thinking to start small and then grow up. And what kind of advice can you give to those young people and to say, okay, start with a small thing? I was reading an article on Igloo, the Japanese company for making clothes.
Yeah.
And the guy started with the shop of his father, and then he grew up to be the second largest in the world.
Sure.
So that's what scares me, to see all those kids thinking of money before thinking of product.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right about, there's a certain mentality which we see where a person gets so excited about something and they think everyone else will like it and it will be easy to sell because it's so exciting to have that kind of thing. And they don't realize what it takes for buyers to make a choice and buy something. I have this problem with engineers. Engineers are people who grew up with Lego, basically. I mean, they just like to put things together. Oh, I just put something really good and I think everyone will want to buy it from me. But they're so unthinking about how we make purchase decisions and who is the market. I want to make a suggestion. Marketing is a college course. It should be a high school course. Let me go further. I think it should be in the elementary school. I think we have to start teaching, because it's a methodology. Try to study a marketing research, try to test it, and so on. That's a skill set. Why do we waste our time teaching economics when it's all wrong? I mean, we are not rational. The whole economists are now defending the fact that it's been wrong. Rational men and women, we're not rational. At best, we're non-rational. Maybe we are irrational. I pick the same tube of toothpaste every time. I don't study the brands and I don't maximize. The whole idea of we don't even maximize, we satisfy. So what I'm saying is that there's now a new economics. I was trained in the old economics. I'm an economist, basically, and I rejected it. The reason I'm in marketing is I rejected economics. And basically, you now hear of what we call behavioral economics. Good movement. The other name for it is marketing. It's just they were smart to word it better than we worded it. We should have called it behavioral. How do people actually buy and sell and decide to make things? And so I think we got to get this concept of marketing into the mindset of young people. Yeah.
Okay, microphone there.
Yeah. Introduce yourself too.
I am the Chief Operational Officer of Edenred, which is a service company, and my responsibility concerns 7 countries in the southern of Europe.
Okay.
So Edenred is a service company. And you gave us a nice set of ideas on marketing. And what about sales management? Since sales is transforming idea in actions and actions in results.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Sometimes I wonder if we need salesmen anymore in the digital age. I mean, everyone, do you know what a lot of companies say to their to salesmen? I don't need to see you. I can find out everything about what you sell. You've written it for me right on the internet, and I know not only what your competitors sell, but I have even John Pope or whatever comparing the insurance cost to buy a life insurance policy. So I know you want to get in my office to change my mind about something, but I know enough without you. So salesmen may be disintermediated over time in some cases. Yet, all of you must know of salespeople who you really got value from, that they were able to help you really more confidently buy the car you wanted or whatever else. Here's what the digital world is doing to salespeople. The average sales manager usually needed to be managing to manage 8 salespeople. You're the sales manager, because there's a lot to follow. How did he spend his day? What did he sell during that day? His wife is threatening divorce. He's got a problem. That's why he hasn't been working very well. I mean, you got 8 people. The reason I didn't take the dean to be the dean of the big school in Texas, Texas, is a dean has to know 185 marketing people, professors. That means I have to know the lives and hold their hands. I'd rather just do my marketing without having to manage 180 problems, which are other people's problems. So the sales manager today can manage 20 people because of information. All they have to do is use this company called Salesforce.com, Salesforce.
Salesforce.
They have systems where I can probably manage a sales force of 100 people, know exactly where each one is at any point in time, and have all the numbers of what they've achieved, and I can get a call made to one of them right now who's having a problem. Yeah. So sales may be, which means we need fewer sales managers. We need more people doing sales than managing others doing sales. But there's a lot, let's have good respect for salespeople. When they're very good, there's nothing like them. But here's what's happening. When you're in a doctor's office, you'll see every doctor is visited by 10 salesmen a day. And the doctor's orders is, I won't see any of them. Just leave the samples. And the pharmaceutical companies don't know what to do with that. That's not selling when you leave a sample. Any other questions? Yes.
The last one.
Your hand was up. Well, maybe she found someone. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor. I'm a marketing professor as well, and I'm also a marketing manager of a startup. And my colleagues all have gray hair. So whenever we go to...
Or no hair.
Colored hair, like me. So when I talk to managers in companies and they look at us and we say, we have a startup, they really think we come out of the blue. I mean, usually startups and innovation is related and associated with very, very young people. So what I really like to know from you, what can we respond? I mean, isn't there a necessity to innovate also within organization and people who have our age? How can we teach them to be innovators and entrepreneurs? So what can we tell them?
Yeah. First of all, I think everyone in a company should be, I could imagine a company saying to everyone in it, let's do this for next week. I'd like for everyone to start up a company related to our business. I'm not going to punish someone who doesn't come up with any startup, and I won't punish anyone if it's a bad startup. I just want to collect. In fact, I'm not even going to tell who gave me these ideas, but I want all of you to think about startups, because age doesn't make a difference. Those people who are older with a lot of experience, they should be able to think of new things as well. Now, so what I got from you is that looking down at startup ideas in a company, you sense that?
Hello. No, I really like your idea. Actually, this was the kind of answer that I was looking for. The idea of startup within companies, intrapreneurship instead of entrepreneurship. So it's a concept that actually, is becoming very, very fashionable. But it's very difficult to pass it along within organizations, especially to people who've been doing the same old things the same way.
Yeah, it is. It is. And let's all search for the next book, not this one, but another one that comes out telling us how to put more energy and fire into an organization, that new is good. I don't want to say old is bad, but new is change is, here's the way I usually put it. If you're a company and you don't innovate, you die. If you do innovate, you also may die. Which do you want to choose?
Okay.
You have a better chance with the second because if it's a really good innovation that you made, you will
survive.
be better off. And there's no chance if you just stay where you are. Your business will get stale and die.
Okay, thank you. Time is very fast. You are the first person that receive our prize. I know that there is another prize very important for you, but we made a little prize for you, and the name is Markethinkers Award. So you are the best in 2017. Christelle, please come here and let's start with the video.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. You're very creative too. Thank
Mettiamo
you.
la foto.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Professor, for coming.
Good. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good.
See you
I'll leave
tomorrow.
now.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Vabbè, non sappiamo forse.